I'm talking to Austin Weber today. Austin is a really great musician and filmmaker and label owner, and probably a lot of other things that I want to learn more about. Um, I came across Austin through our mutual friend David and their project now called Specific Records. And diving into Austin's music has been super cool for me. I am really struck by your sense of form and melody and also kind of casual complexity. So I'm interested to dive into some of Austin's influences a little bit and his journey with songwriting particularly, but also just to talk about general creativity because when I look at your stuff, Austin, I'm just deeply inspired by there's certain art I've come across that, and I'm going to stop sharing here. There's certain art I've come across where it feels like palpable. The person's um, like from back of napkin to execution, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I almost feel like when I'm watching your videos or listening to your music or both, I can almost imagine you having the idea and then doing it. And there's other people that seem like they've hidden their conceptual phase, if that makes sense, or maybe that's just not part of the project, whatever. But I
Yeah.
really love that about your work. So anyway, welcome to
Oh,
my
thank
Zoom
you.
call.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. I want to just ask you, right? We'll go specific and general, but I was just listening to this record, Derecho, which just came out a little while ago, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that collection of songs and particularly like how you put together those that collection of songs. Are you kind of writing for a project like that, or are you doing a mix of writing and culling from old song ideas, or talk about putting
You know,
that
it's
together?
it's interesting. My records have tended to follow like I've never really written for a record,
Mhm.
all of my records and I think there are some that are not on Bandcamp. As you were going through there, it made me go like, "Oh man, I gotta I gotta make sure everything's up there." Because like I don't think any of my film scores are up there. I should put those up there too.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
I would love to talk about that stuff too.
yeah, but it's I tend to I've never really thought about this, but yeah, a lot of my friends do like have a couple records they're working on at once. But I tend to just be making stuff, and then once I have like 10 finished things that go together, it's like, all right, that's a record.
Yeah.
And that's sort of served me well. Um, I think. No, I feel like it served me well. They all tend to get finished at once. Once I realize I have a record on my hands, then I'll finish it.
And by
Um,
finishing it, do you mean like so when I heard this record particularly, which really is just so beautiful and uh it feels like casual but really refined, and I think that's like a good magic trick where you can make a record feel um yeah, I mean it's like stripped down a lot of the arrangement. You know what I mean? It's not like overwrought. It's a pretty like low track count type of record, or that's how it feels on the outside at least.
yeah.
But it takes a lot of sort of an arranger's mind to choose the things you actually want to keep, right? Um,
Oh,
so
thanks.
so when you brought these songs together, then are you recording them all in one, not in one go, but like are you in order for them to all get a sonic stamp, are you kind of executing the album in a go, if that makes sense? Or is it a hybrid of all things?
It's sort of a hybrid of all things. I tend to get 90% there on each track
Yeah,
independently. And then when it comes time to finish it, I maybe will finish all of them together.
yeah.
But I think mostly it just comes from the Sonic Stamp is mostly just what I'm interested in at that point.
Hmm.
At least with Derecho and Stone Smile. Um, I was just making what was interesting to me, and for better or worse, what's interesting to me tends to stay pretty consistent throughout like a longer stretch of time. And so they all work out pretty similarly just because that's consistently interesting to me. Um,
What were some influences informing those two records? Because you're right, those two records do feel a bit similar sonically, right? Like kind of acoustic instruments and like sort of a homegrown feel. They feel like living room records to me or something like
oh,
this.
thanks. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna pull up the track list so
Yeah, and
I can remember.
I'll share it on my side too.
Oh, cool. Um, the I mean, I don't think you'll be totally surprised at the references. It's like a lot of sort of very casually intricate artists like Bill Callahan.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you know Chris Wiseman, huge influence for me.
Oh man, we should
Um,
talk about him. Or have you been aware of him? When did he come across your radar? Because you're an
um,
East Coast, because you're an East Coaster, and he's a East Coast type.
yeah, in college,
Okay.
I was actually in the middle of writing I am currently in the middle of writing a Substack post about Chris and and all of his influence. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's the guy, Um, and
I.
other folks like especially on derecho like Michael Hurley, um,
Oh yeah.
and then to sort of an equal extent, I would say um maybe less the Grateful Dead and more like the Garcia Hunter songs, like the
Hmm.
oeuvre more than like the style itself. Although the guitar work, the definitely in the last few years, I've been really interested in like when I was a kid, I was super into, and I still am super into uh Fela Kuti and the different ways that guitars become percussion instruments in
Hmm.
North and West African music.
Hmm.
Um, and that sort of rhythmic interplay, I feel like the Dead took it and iterated it with like a harmonic interplay.
Hmm.
Um, and that's definitely been a big influence in like the guitar writing.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
where I
it's like a counter. It's like casual counterpoint or something like this, right? Where it's like
Yeah,
actually really
exactly.
complex, but it's also stony in its own way. So it's got this like angle or something, right? Of the. I talked to a friend who's. I
Yeah.
keep forgetting. Were you raised in? Are you from like Massachusetts, basically, or that area? Where were you? Kind of. Where did you come
Yeah,
up?
I sometime in Manhattan,
Yeah,
sometime in the suburbs, sometime in like more rural New England.
I
And
lived in
then
Carlisle. Do you
yeah.
know where Carlisle is? By
Mass?
like, yeah,
No, I don't. I know the
by
name of the town, but I don't know where it
by like
is.
Concord and Lexington.
Oh yeah. Yeah, of course.
I was just there for 2 years as a California kid because I grew up in Southern California, and then we like went there real quick for my dad's job for 2 years, and I was like,
Oh,
I
cool.
wasn't this, but I basically like walked in with my checkered Vans and my surfboard. Yeah. Um,
That's so fun.
but I talked to a friend about this sort of like this relationship. He's an East Coast, like he's a Rhode Island person, and then I know that like the
Hmm.
Dead and sort of adjacent jam bands that's a very like Vermont East Coast hippie
Yeah.
East Coast hippies basically versus Southern California hippies, and that they're both into the Dead but almost in a very different way. Like I was really into, do you remember like Medeski, Martin and Wood and these types
Of
of
course. Yeah, I
this
was a
that
huge
yeah,
Medeski Martin and Wood fan as a kid.
there you go. So that's a whole thing, but I remember specifically going to a Medeski, Martin and Wood show on the East Coast as a California person, and like
Uh-huh.
it was almost like we were standing in the audience together, but it was like, oh, you're this type of like, you know what I mean, like jam band fan. And
Yeah,
I'm this and I'm this
I
one.
do.
That's
Uh,
funny.
Yeah, that is really funny. You know, it's interesting. My so many of my closest musical collaborators have, even if they are not like directly Grateful Dead people, I find that a lot of their parents were.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, of course, part of that just comes with being alive during their whole era. Um, but it's always interesting to me. There's sort of I feel like there's a very trickle down influence where like parents get into the Grateful Dead and their kids become classical composers is
Yeah, that's a
like a
pipeline.
track
Yeah, yeah,
it's happened
that's right.
to at least a couple of my friends.
Yeah.
But I'm always fascinated by the way that the Dead, and you know, I think especially, well, all of them in their own ways manage to insinuate like incredibly complex, you know, and experimental and exploratory musical ideas into the normal everyday lives of America.
Yeah, the
Um,
Trojan horse,
you
you're kind of
know,
naming in a weird way when you bring up everybody from Chris Wiseman to Bill Callahan. I also was like looking at some stuff you've written about where Burt Bacharach and João Gilberto are in your wheelhouse, in your mind, in your
yeah.
brain, in your heart. These are
Yeah,
all
exactly.
artists I
That's the
resonate.
Substack I'm trying to revive now.
Okay, yeah, yeah. But like I do feel like
Yeah.
all the artists we're talking about in a way, and the Grateful Dead are a perfect example. They found ways to basically, I think of it as the Trojan horse. Steely Dan is a big different version of this, which is you're basically like doing something that is quite complicated and profound, but you've packaged it up for like consumption, right? Like you're sort of
Yeah.
like saying, here you go. It's just a thing. Um, but if you choose
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
inspect with a magnifying glass, you can go down the rabbit hole if you choose.
Yeah. And Steely Dan's interesting because of course they are so unabashedly like cerebral
Yeah, that's a little more
in their
muso maybe than the
presentation.
Dead. Yeah, yeah,
No, but like my mom when she was in high school, you know, Asia was her favorite record. She still knows every word, you
yeah,
know, and she's like her two bands were Steely Dan and The Clash. You know, she's a huge
yeah,
like punk fan. And so, you know, she's got very
yeah.
um interesting musical tastes. But it's always interesting to me to picture like my, you know, 16-year-old mom like getting the like wearing out the grooves on Asia.
I mean, yeah.
It's such a such a funny, you know, because yeah, I don't know, but you know, it's something that is some dots that I'm connecting right now um, in my own head is it's funny how living with someone for an extended period of time, you know, Aaron and I have been living together now for 4 years,
Hmm.
maybe 5 years, and you start to learn a lot more about yourself than I've learned a lot more about myself than I thought I did just because she can read me so well.
Yeah,
And
your
like one
actions.
thing
Yeah,
one thing I've realized is that my brain, I don't, when I think about things, I'm not thinking in words. I don't, my ideas very rarely have like words associated with them. Like I have to actually focus in order to like bring words into the ideas that I have. Um, and maybe that accounts for some of the back of the napkin quality.
hmm.
Um, is like when I'm writing something down, it's like the first time that it has a voice, or like when I'm saying something, that's the first time it has a voice. Like my internal monologue is very um like it's like floating shapes in the void. I don't
Hmm.
really know how to. There's a lot going on, but it's all like tessellations and
Yeah.
like feeling based rather than like idea based. I don't know.
Do you feel like as a so this is a question then, do you feel like once you get it down on paper or stuck, or recorded for that matter, do you feel like it is sort of clear, if that makes sense? Like if you're going to come up with an idea, whether it was for video or for a thing that would involve, it doesn't even have to be writing as much as like execution, I guess is really what I'm talking about. Like if your brain's going
Yeah.
here, you're sort of like working, and then once it's like set, do you feel like it happens quickly, kind of like once you, whether it's you're
Yeah,
making a video or
definitely
whatever?
definitely when once I find the thing,
Yeah.
it starts to flow in a good way.
Yeah.
Um Especially with the video stuff. I feel like so often with the video stuff, it's really not obvious what it is that we're doing until afterwards. Um, or so much of it is about like finding the movie in the while you're
Yeah.
working on it.
Hmm.
Um, both in life and in art, I'm not much of a storyboarder, for lack of a better word. Um,
Yeah, you're sort of
I
like
tend
build you're composing from the elements, maybe like it begins to take shape as you're creating it, in a sense.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and it's a really fun way of working. Um, and a lot of my collaborators, the people who I work with the most, tend to work the same way. Um,
Post
yeah, but it's
post production, I guess you could argue that post production is really the term for this, right? In a way that like, or not post, not only post, but like, you're right. I guess I know some people that try to actually, I'm thinking about it now. Like, I don't know that many people that plot it all out ahead of time and then are actually able to like just do that thing. It often ends up veering off course and it's being available to like the left turns that brings the magic, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even no matter how much you plan, it's always like the unexpected that is delight is such a is a buzzy word these days, but
Yeah.
I think that's where delight really comes into the process is when something is delightful, it's surprising.
Yeah.
Um, I and of course if I can manage to surprise myself, um, then that's yeah. I mean
Yeah.
the yeah.
I was going to ask really quick as I just kind of fly. I mean, I'm just sharing your page here and sort of
Yeah.
flying through a variety, a variety of things. As I'm doing this, do you, uh, I don't know, do you feel like there's maybe here's a question. Like, what's your relationship with making video now versus like I can go down here to 7 years ago, right? Like you've been making videos on here for I guess here's 9 years, but generally heading toward a decade. How's your relationship with making video changed over time?
I mean, it's interesting because I think it started out as one thing, changed into another thing, and then now is back to that original thing. Um,
Sorry about that.
oh no, you're good. I've we've got cats here. I don't know where
I'm
the
gonna,
other one is.
I'm gonna close
Um,
this door really quick. Um, Go ahead. You were saying it's kind of circled back in a way.
for sure. Where the reason I started making videos really is because my friends are filmmakers. Um, you know, I when I was in college, I went for although I've been making videos since I was a kid. That's always been something I've had fun doing.
Yeah.
Um, but when I was in college, my I went to study music. I actually applied as a classical music and like Latin.
Okay.
And I took I took one I took one classics like class. Didn't even I don't think I made it through the first class. You know, in college there's a week at Harvard, you got a week to decide what classes you want to take, and you could just show up to whatever you
Like
wanted.
buffet style.
Yeah, called Shopping Week. It's amazing. It's
Cool.
one of the great things. And so I shopped this classics class, and I lasted like 10 minutes before I was like, man, I don't want to,
Sorry.
you know,
Yeah.
what I love about it was like the discovery and the translation. Um and I went in there and it's like, oh right, like if I do classics, that just means 4 more years of grammar. It's like I don't
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but anyway, then I was just doing music for a while. But my freshman year roommate, who, you know, is still one of my like closest friends and collaborators, is was a filmmaker, still is. And through him, I fell into the sculpture department, which was in the same department as the film department.
Oh, wow.
He'd happened to take a class with this sculptor named Jennifer Borenstein, who I then took a class with, and through her fell into the whole sculpture program. And by the time I graduated, you know, I had technically gotten a degree in music, but and I technically got 2 degrees, one in music, one in sculpture. But by the time I graduated, it was like it was all sculpture basically.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and that was so anyway, I started making videos just because my friends were making videos, and you know, I have a feeling that if I had friends who were making uh I don't know, socks, like I'd probably start
It would
making
have rubbed off.
socks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole like ethos of my life, really, I think, is with a few notable exceptions, um, has been to try and focus my life around my friends.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, that's same with specific records. Uh, you know, the goal that David and I had was, you know, how do we work with and uplift our friends? Um, and you know, how do we work with and uplift our community? Um, you know, doing something sort of fun and productive. And so video was 100% a part of that, where, you know, my friends were filmmakers, they had cameras, and so we
Hmm.
started making videos. And then, of course, you know, my videos started getting very popular. And then the question shifted from how do I have fun with my friends to how do I keep being popular?
Sure.
And then it became kind of a burden, the videos. And
Hmm.
then of course I kind of abandoned them briefly once they became a burden, and then realized like, oh wait, I was making these because they're so much fun. And now I make them with my friends when we have a cool idea because they're so much fun, and they're not popular, but boy do I enjoy them
So
again.
that's the full
So
circle. That's, I mean, in a way, you're summing up. It's so interesting to think like the life cycle of an artistic journey, and especially like an interface with popularity or a viral situation or whatever the term you want to use. Like it's sped up now,
yeah.
but what you just encapsulated is like also the story, go back 40, 50, 60 years to an artist making, it's like Fleetwood Mac or something, right? Like making music nobody cared about, and then they made music everybody cared about. And then eventually that light dims, and then they have to just come back and make a record because they like making music, or, there's
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
trajectory to this thing you're talking about. So it's good on you for like recovering from. I I'm interested in, well, like you were talking about the burden,
No, it's
right? Like
true.
if you've had like a
Yeah.
hit in a way, and then you have to like deal with the burden of trying to hold that thing. And I bet you a lot of people just bail, right? I would assume
Oh yeah.
a lot of
I
people
mean,
burn out and stop and quit and hate it forever,
I
right?
yeah, it's wild. And I feel I you know, for a while I felt, of course, immediately I felt very lucky, and then I felt very unlucky. Um, and now I feel even more lucky,
Yeah.
uh, especially because, I it happened while I was still very young, and on a I remember feeling very unlucky that it happened while I was very young, being like, if this happened when I knew more, like I could have capitalized on it,
Yeah.
or you know, I don't know. And Yeah, but then now it's like, man, I feel very fortunate that like I could go through that cycle, um and land in a place I feel really good about, and really happy with so much time still ahead of me.
Yeah,
Um
that's the thing. I'm also, as I was listening to your these two records this morning, specifically like the Stone Smile and Derecho, they both feel very lived in and a little bit beyond your years. I don't even know how old you are, but you're younger than me.
oh, thanks.
Um, they have a lived in quality, and the fact that you're dropping people like Bill Callahan and Chris Wiseman and these types of people. These feel like musicians that are very like they're doing such an admirable thing, which feels like they're like wise and playful. They're doing a thing that's
Yeah.
very hard to do. They're not like you don't get the sense these artists are like just falling into whatever's comfortable. You know what I
No,
mean? At all.
there's like the endless exploration.
Yeah.
Um I don't know, the way you described them recalled to me like, they always feel sort of like wizardish.
Wizard.
Um,
That's the word,
you
man.
know,
Wizard.
yeah,
That's right.
in both senses, in the magical sense, but also in the sense of being wise. Um, there's a there's a certain wisdom to music that's that settled, and it feels very eternal.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I don't know. Yeah, but definitely, yeah, definitely. I saw Callahan play the other week in New York. He came through, no bass. It was amazing. His ensemble was him playing an acoustic guitar, another guy playing an electric guitar, a saxophone player, and Jim White was playing drums.
Hmm.
And it was just like a fascinating ensemble choice. It's like
Yeah.
very rock and roll, very not rock and roll.
Yeah, that's right.
It didn't give you, uh, when you started listening to it, a lot of the satisfaction you're chasing in music, that big cadence, the bass gives you so much of that.
Hmm.
When the bass hits that one chord, and Back to the Dead, that's one of their strengths as a ecosystem is, Phil Lesh giving you those big moments when, um just often enough, the big relief moments of the bass hitting the one.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and it was interesting to see a show where like you knew that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know there were a few times where the guy playing electric guitar would hit like, a big open G, or like an open C with the
Yeah.
G and the bass, or like an open E, where you kind of get a hint of that, where but it was interesting, and I wonder how purposeful it was to suspend the audience permanently in like this
Wow.
space of, because the whole rest of the ensemble was there. It wasn't like you were
Wow.
seeing like, two people with acoustic guitars. It was like when you hear Dave Rollins and Gillian Welch play.
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
Gillian, I've learned.
Yeah.
Um, when you hear Dave and Gill play, you know that there's no bass, and but that's part and parcel with the music and the ensemble and the tradition. But it's fascinating to watch a rock and roll band with no bass,
Wow.
because it's like a football team with no quarterback or something.
Yeah.
And it was it was like it was really interesting, and it was really lovely. It was a very unique show. It made me want to do that, try that, see what that's like. It's like a forced suspension. We were
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it clearly had an impact on you, right? Like it clearly made an impact. He's a very masterful. It's funny. It's like a metaphor for his thing. You know, these other
Yeah,
types of musicians hang I put in that select wizard category are people like Cass McCombs and Chris Cohen.
100%.
These types of people that seem to be doing, I've been thinking a lot about this too because there's comfort in me. It's very much like any form of art, including food, by the way. Like it's like, you can go comfort to uncomfortable, and you have a giant spectrum. And
Yeah,
I think about it with the types of songs these people make because I'm always uncomfortable. I realized, like you know what I mean? And then you can do the same
yeah,
if you're like a jazz fan. I can always point to like the jazz, like Sonny Rollins, weirdly, always has made me, among other things, like uncomfortable. But I'm realizing uncomfortable is like so fascinating and interesting. And like you were just talking about seeing him, like it doesn't have to be negative, basically. It's like more like your brain is firing in a way and you're asking yourselves questions. And then the beautiful thing about some of this stuff is that if the questions begin to be turned on you, that's when the art is doing this thing almost. It's like, hey buddy, why do you always use bass or whatever? Like, you know what I mean? It's like it can do a thing to you, the listener, that
yeah.
begins to
It
play
was
with,
like
yeah,
weirdly confrontational.
confrontational.
Um,
It's punk. It's kind of
yeah, it's
punk,
very,
right?
very punk. Yeah,
That's right.
100%.
That's right. Confrontational.
Yeah, it's yeah. And it's so funny because of course his music itself is very unconfrontational. You know, it's
Yeah,
so quiet and unassuming, but like at the same time totally shocking. You know, it's like yeah, it does
that's right.
both things. That's where its power lies.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, it's like the Chris Weisman dichotomy is like very, very quiet, but very, very like complicated. Not that that's a dichotomy. Um, yeah, I don't know.
He is serving on
Yeah.
him real quick, and I know I'm excited to read whatever you write about him, but he came on my radar through an East Coast friend. I was sort of taking a few lessons, like arranging lessons from a woodwind person out there, and he
Hmm.
hipped me to him. And but the one thing I noticed about him, and I don't know his music that well really, but I know if his sort of universe he's
Yeah.
created. And one of the things you notice in this universe is when you go to his page of music, it looks like a lot of the stuff's written and recorded in a week or something like this, right?
Yeah.
And that for me is a perfect example of yet another what's the word you use? It's that feels very confrontational to me in the sense that like it almost feels like not a dare, but like when I read that, I'm kind of like, could I ever do that? And like in a weird way, the answer like is almost and obviously yes. Like of course you could, but it's also at the same time totally ridiculous and probably the scariest thing you could ever do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
rock climbing or something.
it's almost exactly like rock climbing, actually. Um, and I think you're getting at maybe something about Chris's music that's so fascinating which is it how it almost feels like really slow form, like a slow form of improvisation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, it I I over the years I've sort of learned to think of composition and improvisation as like two ends of a spectrum uh rather than like two discrete things you can be doing. Um
Yeah, they're like
and
deeply connected. Yep.
Chris's music falls into the middle portion in a really cool way. Um and so much of that also is like in the last 5 years, I've gotten much deeper into the trad music community and to playing that kind of music.
Oh, cool.
Um, and last night I was one of the things I was excited to do moving to New York was there's a ton of really great trad sessions, and I was at one last night. Um,
You take your guitar?
where yeah,
Cool.
uh, I'm very lucky that I play the guitar because I can accompany the reels when I don't know them,
Hmm.
and by God I don't know any.
You're
They
talking about the
they
actual melody, like the actual real, meaning the like endless melody that you find in that music, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting, like the different traditions. This was an Irish session I was at last night,
Hmm.
but I don't have a big repertoire of like Irish music that I know. Most of it is Canadian and French Canadian, just through happenstance. And my wife grew up playing fiddle in Ashland, Oregon.
Hmm.
And we go back there every summer to teach at the camp that she grew up playing at.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, and she is half French Canadian, which is not even how she started playing French Canadian music. That's just another coincidence.
Huh.
Um, but it's funny, all the tunes that they were calling last night are very familiar. It's like the same syntax, but slightly different, um, harmony. And so I could provide pretty like I could play the tunes,
Yeah.
but there was like a translation that had to happen. But that's trad music for me is the perfectly emblematic of that like middle point between composition and improvisation
Yeah.
where they're like you're improvising with compositions. It's like you'll play a tune and then you'll start playing another tune and you'll improvise the set list, but each tune is itself like a unit, the same way like any note is a unit. And it's
Hmm.
like this weird sort of like amorphous improvisation that you get to do as a group where like I don't know, last night someone called this tune King of the Fairies, that I'd never heard before, and then in the middle, when once that like reached some sort of cerebral agreed on stopping point that is one of those things that everyone just feels. Someone else started playing another thing, and everyone, and then all of a sudden we were off this way and that way,
Hmm.
and
Wow.
it's it's this wonderful sort of like yeah, middle point between improvisation and um composition. Also because like who wrote these songs? Like nobody.
Yeah, that's the other beautiful part about it. It's like the focus is not on an artist, right? In a way. It's like
It's like the music is about playing it. Like it's not even about like
hmm.
the music just doesn't exist unless it's being played, which is true with all music.
Yeah, because there's not a
Um
version, there's not the ultimate version of it or whatever out there.
yeah, it's just like it's a living document. And once you're playing it, it exists, and when you're not playing it, it simply doesn't exist. And there's an element of the I mean, magic is very strong in the world, and we always forget.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the beauties of this music is it really doubles down on that, and it doubles down on the whole wizard quality of the great musicians. Like there's this legendary dude in the New York scene named Don Mead,
Hmm.
who happened to be leading this session last night. And the session is run by this like 85-year-old woman named Terry who plays the concertina.
Hmm.
She rocks. And every week she gets a new person to come in and lead the session. And it was Don Mead yet last night, this legendary New York dude who just like knows every tune. He knows every tune. He knows the name of every tune,
Yeah.
which is two separate things, which is another great example of how, the nature of this music, threading that, ley line between composition and improvisation, where it's like the tune itself is separate from the name of the tune. Like we think of music and their titles as being inextricable, Beethoven's Fifth,
Yeah.
you know, but with this music, it's like you can know a ton of tunes and have no idea what they're called.
Yeah.
It's like that's me right now. Like I learned so much, 2, 3 hours worth of music last night.
Yeah.
I learned,
Yeah. But who
and
knows
I
what
have
it's
no.
actually? Yeah. Yeah.
I remember the King of the Fairies because that's a really memorable title. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but so Don, who was leading the session, just like a wizard, man. It's crazy. He just like pulls this music out of the air, which is the effect because of course that is what it is. It's like the music doesn't exist anywhere except in the air. It's very literally like in the air. It just,
Yeah.
you know, and anyway, that's been a really big influence on me over the last couple years has been really learning this music and playing this music. And especially it does something interesting to not only the idea of like the sort of Western classical idea of like there being improvisation and composition, but it also does something interesting to, oh geez, what was I gonna say? Um,
What does it do to your songwriting? I guess like, or do you feel like it's like informing your? And if you just remember what you said, just let me know. But
oh yeah,
because that's
yeah.
something I'm curious about, like your writing in general. I guess if you're going to be threading this really wavery improvisation composition needle, if you're threading that in the trad world, it's probably going to spill over into your
It
writing
probably
if you're
does.
interested in doing that. Yeah, yeah,
I don't necessarily know how yet, except
yeah,
for the fact of like um I don't really know how yet, but
yeah.
I'm sure in 5 years I'll look back on it and be like, oh yeah, that's when I was playing a ton of trad music.
There's that. Yeah, yeah. Talk to me about two things have been coming to mind as you're talking about this,
Yeah.
related and unrelated, I guess. But one, I want to know about your feeling of what LA was sort of like to exist in as a creative person, and now that you don't live there anymore and that you're back on the East Coast, what comes to mind about how I'm like specifically interested in how being in a place affects somebody creatively. So,
Yeah.
like, how'd that feel there now that that chapter is sort of, you've turned the page and then how's it feel being back? What's coming to mind?
It's, I think the big LA for me had three big effects. Um, I'm See, this is that what you just saw is me trying to think in words. I can't I was thinking like, all right, like let me get this straight before I say anything, but
That's all right.
I don't know if that's possible. But the things that come to mind are like, first of all being close to the industry I feel like was a huge part of my cycle in terms of like, you know, the cycle that we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
Um, and I hated it.
Okay.
Hated
Yeah.
industry. I
Did it
had so
just
many.
get did the specific negative part of it, was it basically just that it was like it was always present, sort of like, who's this
Yeah, I mean,
person,
it's
where's
just
this
like
opportunity, where's that, what's this, was it a lot of that?
it's a lot of that, and it's also just like, it's in the air, and it's like
Yeah.
on the people you meet, and it's like in the conversations you have,
Yeah.
and the things that people are trying to do. It's, like LA is so defined by why you're moving there, right? Like a city is the collection of people who live there, and the people who are moving to LA who are playing music are largely there because of the music industry.
Yeah.
And so you get this thing where of course that's going to influence like what's going on. And it's,
Mm.
now that I'm thinking about it, and like my closest collaborators are people who moved there not to play music. Like David moved there because that's where Chloe lives, you
Yeah.
know?
Just
It's
like
like
ended up there as a human being.
exactly. And like the other guy, Atticus, who I think you met,
Yeah.
um,
We went to
he
the
moved
same
there.
school, actually, I guess, at different times.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Um, he moved there for UC Irvine,
Right.
and yeah, I mean, some of my friends moved there because they went to college there. My other closest music friend is this guy um, Lucas Tamron, who's the frontman of this amazing band Thumpasaurus.
Hmm.
But it wasn't like like all the best scenes out in LA are just people who got there for other reasons.
Yeah.
Like there's that great scene around like the USC jazz program. It's like the scene with Nowhere and Thumpasaurus and folks like Lewis Cole.
Yeah.
And
These
it's
are
all people who
music students, basically, who
yeah,
made things, and they happen to exist in that city. But you could argue that that whole thing could have cropped up anywhere with a
it
music
could have
school,
been
right?
literally anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this like the REM being from Athens, Georgia. It's like it's the
Yeah.
same thing. But of course when you first move there, like it took me a while to find my crowd.
Yeah.
Um and but once I did, it's just so amazing because it's a big musical city,
It
and
really
I was
is. I will.
very
Yeah,
yeah
I will. That's another question I have for you, because I don't live there, and I've also weirdly, uh, and maybe you can relate, but like I lived in Seattle, and then I grew up in California, but I came back to California via grad school at UC Irvine. And I always
yeah
think of it like, here's the dartboard and here's like Hollywood, not Hollywood, but like, here's the center
yeah
of the center of the center of the center. And my dart goes, like,
yeah
like here's it, like off to the side or whatever. And I was thinking about the benefits of a place like an industry town. I do think the benefits of it, because all the negatives of it are very obvious, like you just talked about. Like you can feel it in the air that everybody wants something and that everybody moved there for a thing, and it's
yeah.
that's all pretty dark in a way. But the benefits are that there's a giant pool of incredibly talented, energetic people.
Oh, it's amazing.
That
And
like the
like
bar is so high even on a bad day. That's how I feel when I go. I often go there to record. Basically, I've realized, for that reason. It's like you're just
yeah
entering into a theme park, and like in order to get in you have to be this tall, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like,
yeah
are
I
you
know
tall enough to get in here? You're like, I think so. And then you go and you're like, oh my gosh, this roller coaster is fast and big, so let me get
I
on,
know exactly what you mean. And it's stuff like I remember
and
I
that's
was
good.
working
Yeah.
with Caplo on a track we were working on together. We did like this whole before we started our band together. We made a whole like record of like covers basically just as a fun exercise. And we were like, man, I wish we had some rototoms. And so I just went on Facebook Marketplace and I looked up rototoms, and like there was like a set of rototoms like 20 minutes away for like
There
a
they
hundred
are.
bucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is a an experience I'll never be able to replicate anywhere else. It's like
that's right. That's right.
an unbelievable wealth of like
Yeah.
just gear.
The
Just like
history of the studio system. Yeah.
and if you want someone who does X, like they exist there. It's like
We
I
always
had
joked.
three different
Yeah,
Wurlitzer techs. It's
that's
crazy.
right. I always joked with a friend that there's a guy, a mythical guy in Marina Del Rey who plays the tambourine and he wears a glove, and like he's got his like tambo glove and you call him up. He races into the studio real quick to do. He always does it in one take. You know,
That's
he's
so
he's too
funny.
grand. He's 2 grand per. He's really expensive, but it's like
That's a great bit.
yeah, he basically exists. Yes, yes.
He yeah, he 100% does.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's kind of feelings, or those are certain things that hit you when you were out there. Now that you're like back on the East Coast, what else do you notice being back as
Well,
it relates to your creativity and interests and stuff?
I think a lot of it is TBD. But
Yeah.
I think so far a lot of it has also just been like my physical location. Um, in LA, it's sort of I sort of hit a yin yang type of deal where in LA I was physically like in my immediate vicinity, I was very removed from most people because that house was so out there.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, what my neighborhood was like, it was everyone, that was where the scene was. Here in New York, in my neighborhood is very far. Apartment wise, there's tons of stuff going on right outside my door, but I am far away from where like the scene is.
Got it.
And so it's like in LA, I'd be walking around the street and I just like run into musicians I was either friends with or wanted to be friends with, or was like I could never be friends with them. They're too famous. Um, like Julian Baker and Lucy Dacus lived down my street.
Yeah.
Um, and in New York, it's like I live, my apartment is the apartment above where my mom grew up and where I grew up. Um, and
You're like back
we
home.
live in like a very residential part of the city,
Hmm.
a neighborhood called Yorkville, which like doesn't exist on like any map that you would hand someone visiting the city.
Got it.
Uh, and it's like it's very quiet up here. There's like the diner on our block has been here for literally 100 years.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't celebrate that. It's not like, we're the oldest diner. It's just like, no, that's just the place that is here.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, so the big difference has been just like sort of the like back home feeling. But I don't know, I was interested to hear about your experiences living where you are making music. Like what's that like?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you bring it up because, like, I'm in a small town, I'm in San Luis Obispo. It's a 20,000 person place when the students are gone because it's also a college
Yeah.
town. So it's like really, when they leave in a week or two, it's really small, really quiet, really rural, honestly, even though
Yeah.
I don't think of it like a cow town. It kind of is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the thing that it's almost like the benefits are obvious. Like almost when you're describing your situation, it's like, wow, quiet. It's not a town that's asking for attention and advertising that the deli is blah blah blah. Like it's like it just almost just is. And that can be a beautiful thing to live in a place like that because it
Yeah.
almost feels like sure of itself in its smallness, humility, whatever
Yeah.
terms you want to use. And then I guess the challenge that I find is I've realized over the years that and over the years, I mean just in the last few years when I've been recording a lot of music, that the time of life I'm in, I guess, or the thing I'm wrestling with is trying. I thrive on pressure and deadlines, basically. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you can relate, especially maybe with film score stuff. Like, if somebody wants a thing, then you're going to get it done.
Oh
And
yeah,
if,
and
if
it's
they don't,
thrilling.
and if they don't want a thing, then you're probably not going to get it done. Like, or a version of that, whatever. And
Yeah, yeah.
I find myself thinking about how I can conjure up a like a practice, like an artist or something, in relative comfort, and that's something that's just on my mind. You know what I mean? I want to have like
Oh,
a
I 100% know what you mean.
yeah,
It's something that I think about a lot too, because it's like when I'm not working on a movie, like no one's telling me to do anything.
yeah,
Um, and I quite honestly like I live a very comfortable existence.
right,
Like we have two cats that are napping right next to me. It's
yeah,
like I we live in a one bedroom apartment. Um, it's like life is very like nice and simple. Um, there's there's not that much friction or complexity on any given day,
right,
which is like weirdly can be a hindrance to creating something that means something,
yeah,
which is it sort of brings me back around in a way to folks like Chris Wiseman and Bill Callahan, who I think part of their um strength is like it doesn't feel like they're like wrestling with things. It's
mm,
like when you hear like you know like of course the classic example is like Dylan's early stuff.
mm.
It feels like he's like wrestling with ideas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um
Unsure of
but
things in a way. Yeah,
yeah, but then the one thing I've been trying to find in my songwriting is and like Michael Hurley I think is an amazing example of this. Like maybe the most settled songwriter I've ever heard.
mm,
Just like a dude who knows what he's about
mm,
and he's not like trying to convince you of a philosophy or like,
mm,
he's just like writing tunes about like the things that he enjoys.
mm.
Um, you know, he has this great track. It's all of his album titles are like variations of the same thing in a way. So it's like it's hard to remember which one's which.
Mm.
Yeah, he died last year. Um, but one of his uh I think it might be on an Ancestral Swamp or Ida Con Snock.
Yeah,
Some of his newer stuff. Or no, maybe it's on the Time of the Foxgloves. Um, let me find it. All of his records are amazing. Um,
you're like the second or third person that's brought him up to me, and I've checked it, but not enough, and so this is giving me a great reminder to go here more.
yeah, I mean he's like he writes songs that feel like they've existed for thousands of years.
Oh man, that's so cool.
One of the I'm just looking at
Yeah,
Idacon Snuck because I'm trying to find this other song. And there's the lead the first track on the record is called It Must Be Gelatine. It must be it's just a
yeah,
song about like someone making food and like it must be
yeah,
like it's gelatine, all right.
yeah,
But Paul McCartney, great example
yeah.
also of like someone who's like writing from like a place of like curious comfort rather
It's
than like
That's right. That's right. He's a
yeah.
playful. I mean, here's the trick. I guess here's the trick, and I am inspired as we talk. Like, I like this. I like feeling like I want to say out loud, like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to head, which is you like playful, curious, but like intense work ethic is part of that equation. And
100%.
I doubt people like that would even say it. Like Michael Hurley probably would, it's not like he's like, I have an intense work ethic. So it can't be explicit per se, but I do think I'm also, and I'm jealous that you did sculpture because I'm jealous of art. You're lucky you also did music and art, by the way, because I think the music student thing or the stereotype I grew up with um,
Yeah.
doesn't lend itself directly to an artistic practice, meaning
No,
person goes to studio every day because they are a sculptor. It feels like grind it out in the practice room, you suck, or something like a version of that for the
no,
music student, right? Like,
100%. And that's why the sculpture program became my home. Like I
oh
really
man,
only graduated with a degree in music because
you
my
had enough
freshman
credit.
year I had gotten like 80% of the way
There you
there,
go.
and it's like, well, I'm gonna
Just do it.
um but there's so much discussion in sculpture about like developing your practice.
Yeah.
And that has been, just a huge positive force in my life since then.
Mm.
Um,
I
where
think
it's like,
mapping that into
yeah,
music is smart. You know what I'm saying? And I think the musicians we're talking about today give off that feeling. They give off the vibe of being people with an artistic practice, not,
so do you, by the way.
oh,
That's
thank you.
one thing I've always
That's
admired
nice.
about your stuff. And
Thank
one
you.
thing I was very excited to do working with you is just like um get a part of that. It's your stuff is so fantastic. I feel like the people you surround yourself with and the systems you build around yourself are so wonderful and
Thanks.
and enviable. They're fantastic.
Thank you. I mean, this is where I feel like I'm headed, and then it goes right back to you in a way, like where I feel like the fact that we're interested in music and working on it, you do have to weirdly build systems for yourself. I was talking to a friend about this recently that school for all of its complexity and all of its moving parts, the beautiful one of the beautiful parts about school is that it is a system of deadlines and projects.
Yeah,
And then of course
100%.
once you graduate, like it's gone and it's beautiful because you're out in the free world. But I find myself wanting to build systems and projects and deadlines and doing it in a way, I want to do it in a way that can fit into my domestic life and fit into life changes, like fit into things as time goes on,
Absolutely.
that your system, it's almost like with every season of life, maybe the the thing I find myself thinking about, it's like, well, what school did I just enroll in? And what's that? How long does it last? It's like an experiment in your mind, right? Like
No,
what
that's a really good
it's
thought
fun,
experiment.
right? Like
Yeah.
what program did you just like enroll in now that you're back on the East Coast in a pretty comfortable non-hipster neighborhood? Like what is your what is your new curriculum all about? And it's like
That's that's a great point. Yeah.
it can be fun to think that way at least, right?
I'm gonna that's all I'm gonna be thinking about the rest of the day. It is interesting also because it's like Aaron and I are contemplating slash preparing for a more permanent move up to Vermont.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so this already sort of has that like durational feeling to it, where it's like, what do I want to accomplish in the next 2 or 3 years, you know, while we're here.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but that's also why I was interested in hearing about, what it's like making music in SLO.
Yeah.
Um, because, you know, Burlington is like a great East Coast analog. Um,
Yeah, idyllic
and it's
college town. Yeah.
it's like it's both thrilling and exciting, the idea of sort of moving up there, and but it's also a little terrifying, um because I've always lived, I've only ever gotten like glimpses, like tastes of what it's like to like be working on creative projects up there. Like we spent a lot of time in Ashland, and I'm friends with a lot of musicians in Ashland. So I talked to them about it,
Mm-hmm.
and like what the scene is like when it's not endless. When there like is a scene. Um,
I will say, okay, I'll give you real specific. Now
yeah,
I'm like getting a better picture of what you're talking about. When I moved here, it was just before the pandemic, so then everything shut down, so there was really no scene to mess with necessarily. Once things
yeah,
opened up, I met a couple of musicians, and there was a summer where I played a lot locally. Like I played, like one of the things that's very Ashland and probably very Burlington is like in a small idyllic town that has a draw of tourism and whatever, there's a certain type of music that does flourish. And I noticed
yeah,
like cover bands, also just what you might call like a version of like a party band of some kind, who are often doing covers. But if not up
yeah,
here, there's going to be there's wineries here. There's going to be bands that are there to serve a function. So I actually
yeah.
tried it. Like I played a lot of shows one summer. Um, with the idea of becoming a local musician with a following here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that 100% makes sense.
And but my fatal flaw as a musician has been that I'm like I like what I like and I want to mess with stuff and I do what I do and it's not a fatal
Well, I think
flaw.
that's no, that's what makes you good,
Well, here's
It's,
here's more of what I'm trying to get at. I have a tough time fitting into a marketplace in a
yeah,
predictable way. So if you this is what I'm saying. There are bands that thrive in my little community, but they are willingly providing a particular kind of taco that everybody wants to eat. And
yeah.
I'm more interested in kind of rolling my own and being like, well, I just redid this cover and it's reharmonized and it's like cool, but it's not as like attractive front man with
Yeah.
band. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like
I
not
know I know
as
exactly what you mean.
it's not as it's not as willing to do it's not as like customer based if you want to put it in like
No,
capitalist.
there's like music as a service, which is its own category of
And
thing.
that thrives in small towns, I think, because um, not every small town, but I think it thrives because it's predictable and because it can be, we're the 80s cover band of this town, or we're the this of this
Yeah.
town, or we're the this of this town.
It's the live music on Thursdays draw at the bar.
There you go. And so, long
Yeah.
story short, I think I kind of like tried that, and it was an interesting experiment. And I left feeling like, oh, I need to be like intellectually zapped because I can't rinse and repeat stuff like a gigging musician in a local town. So then I set off on my like
Yeah.
LA studio journey for 3 years and recorded a lot of music with in very fast conditions with pros who were
Yeah.
who were like my professors. Do you know what I mean? Like that was my
Yeah.
feeling in that whole era of
That totally
time.
makes sense.
But now where I'm at, now the new college I'm signed up for here back in my town is like, how can I take that like intellectually stimulating craft here thing and do it in my small town, whether it's just in my studio or maybe having a couple of people come over and record, but kind of doing it in a way that is I don't know, satisfying on that level. Uh,
100%.
so
And
so
that's
maybe
that's the
yeah,
ultimate question. Yeah.
yeah, and so maybe the trick is you end up in an idyllic town in Vermont where all signs. Here's the other thing I've thought of: all signs point to comfort and um, lack of change and challenge. I think in a nice small town, you can make the
Yeah.
argument like for all of its beauty, what it's not doing is saying, "Get up! There's 1,000 people out your door that are." You know,
Yeah, I mean that's
on the
that's
subway going to their thing, like you know what I mean, like the
yeah.
same thing, right? Like get up. And so maybe there's something you can do in a small town to kind of like build your own. And this is probably why the Chris Wisemans of the world and other small town types who have like built their own universes are so interesting, right? It's like
Yeah.
nobody's telling them to get up and do anything. Or
No,
if that, you know,
yeah, he's done the thing. I mean, it's like
yeah,
he he lives in a town called Brattleboro, Vermont,
yeah,
southern Vermont.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, there's a um I've only seen him play once.
yeah,
Because of course he doesn't tour. I was shocked. The only reason I got to see him play was he played a show at Pico Union in LA,
oh, yeah,
because he he co-wrote a bunch of stuff with Blake Mills
yeah,
for some TV show.
yeah,
Um, and the Daisy Jones and the Six TV show. I don't know if you remember that one,
yeah. I'm aware.
but yeah, I'm also aware, same level. Um, but Blake went on tour with Chris Wiseman briefly, or rather, like, managed to convince Chris to come on tour with him, and
Yeah,
they played just songs from, like, just Blake's songs, basically.
yeah.
Uh, which was a little bit disappointing, I think, because basically everyone in the room came to see Chris Wiseman play.
This
So it's
dude do
like,
his thing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, when you're in LA, you could see Blake Mills play
yeah.
all the time. And so it was
Spoiled.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, which was funny. And Blake is a huge Chris Wiseman fan, and he talks about he at the show he talked about the experience of getting in touch, which was he, like, just emailed him and got his phone number and then called him, and then of course Chris Wiseman picks up and he's like, "Hey, this is Chris Wiseman." Blake's like, "Oh my God." Like, he's real, like, he talks.
that's funny.
Um but they played one Chris Wiseman song, a song called Golden Day,
Hmm.
and it felt like the whole room was levitating.
Wow.
It's one of these amazing songs
Hmm.
that, like, lives outside of time
Hmm.
almost entirely.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't remember what my point was.
Well, we
But
were talking
yeah.
about his way of the fact that he's built a universe in a tiny.
Oh, oh yeah. Yeah, he's built this whole universe in like southern or central New England.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's like I don't know.
But here's what's coming to
Yeah.
mind is when I'm thinking of
Yeah.
your work and like because you have kind of this vast array both as a working film composer and songwriter. And then when I'm hearing these like recent songwritery, more maybe like songwritery records versus maybe more pop records you've made that
Yeah.
feel more intertwined with video, and then other ones that feel more, you've got like this constellation happening with your work. The other thing that's been hitting me lately as an inspiration to head, especially heading to a small town as a person who does creative things, it's
Yeah.
like, man, folks like João Gilberto and like Charles Ives
Yeah.
and many, many composers who are hard to really think of as people when you learn about them in history books. And even somebody like João Gilberto, who, yes, came to New York and made some famous stuff with Stan Getz and blah, blah, blah. But like, we are talking about people that just kind of like were in a little house somewhere, many of whom were in the equivalent of a Burlington, or
Yeah.
a small town wherever. And they found a practice and they found a thing and they like rinsed and they like dialed deep into a really unique thread. And as time's going on, that's really inspiring to think about, like that like almost for every like city dweller who grinded it out in the fire of the city, you can think of artists who were over here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Building
I mean,
building their
it's
own thing or something.
probably with regards to the proportion of the population that live in big cities versus small towns.
Mm,
Proportionally, there's probably more artists who live in small towns.
sure.
Like I bet the artist to non-artist ratio is bigger in small towns
Mm,
than in cities. I'd be curious. Of course, there's more artists that live in big cities, but there's also just more people.
hmm.
Um, but oh yeah, what got me back on the Chris Weisman train
Oh yeah.
was one thing I did really specifically, one school I signed up for, one degree I signed up for really intentionally was film composing, as a way to work with my friends and ground my work in a wider scene, um, while not having to be geographically anywhere specific.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are you
that was
actively working on like I mean that sounds like an intentional decision, and are you consistently working on film projects?
Yeah, I mean, as consistently as they come in,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's the I at any given moment I'm working on two or three movies, but you know, movies are so long and ethereal. They're like transatlantic expeditions in the 1700s,
Yeah.
where most of the time you're just like sitting in like I'm like the ship's doctor, like unless it's not like I'm up there on the rigging all day
Yeah.
like some people on movies are. It's like I'm in my own little kingdom, and when there's a problem, when I'm needed, like I spring into action, and then I have like a month of really hectic work, or even
Got
just
it.
like a week or a day of really hectic work,
Got it.
and then
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like back to pacing the deck and reading through obscure medical journals to figure out how smallpox is cured. It's like, and it's interesting because now and I think that accounts for the change in my own writing from pre Stone Smile to then Stone Smile and Derecho. Is before Stone Smile, the thing that I did was make records and go on tour.
Yeah.
You know,
That was your
just
like
from like an
main identity kind of or something.
yeah, and like it was my identity. It was like my economic reality is like I have to play shows and make money and etc. And then what the real gift that film scoring gave me is like that that was making records and writing songs was no longer something I felt pressured to do from
Mm,
myself, if nothing else. And the rate of writing hasn't slowed down, but it's definitely like it freed up. It felt like a big invisible weight had been lifted from my own like creative process.
mm,
Um, and I think that's why things started feeling looser and more direct and more um, like conversational and more like me. I
mm.
feel like I've since I started scoring movies, and I now tell people when they ask me what I do, I say, oh, I say I'm a composer,
Mhm.
and I also write songs, but
Yeah, but you're kind of like I mean that's a beautiful thing too to think that like if you're songwriting, the role of songwriting is not to lift all, is not to like provide all things or
yeah.
whatever, but it just gets to exist freely. That's probably the kind of songs you want to write anyway, you
Oh,
know.
100%. And
Unless
that's
you're a
like what I
commercial
get to do when
Nashville.
I'm
Yeah, yeah.
pacing the deck. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. That's
it's
right.
wonderful. It's
Oh
like
man.
it
Yeah.
becomes like a meditation rather
Yeah.
than like a something that yeah,
And
yeah, it's
that's
like
what
I'm
you want
not
your music to sound like anyway, right? Like especially since you're a fan of the people we've been talking about. Like I think I've always envied but also like been glad I'm not a professional songwriter who gets, who's like literally trying to co-write with big pop stars or whatever. Like that's a beautiful. I do think that craft is amazing. Like the people who really
100%.
have dialed that in and like
Yeah.
do that. I think that's amazing. But they definitely cannot go. They definitely cannot like take a whim and just do a thing. I mean, they
No.
can, but they're not going to. They're gonna just be like hustling toward the like
Yeah,
toward the
because you can't, I don't
yeah
think you can write that many different kinds of songs at once.
yeah
It's like you're, but back to LA, one of the big advantages of living there was like getting to see this firsthand.
yeah.
Um, you know,
Getting to see what
definitely,
first,
oh,
what exactly?
the like hustle and like meeting the people who are career songwriters. It's like when you're living in any town other than New York or other than Nashville and LA, even in New
Yeah.
York, you're not meeting like,
Right.
pop songwriters. But like in LA, you just meet them. They're at parties, I
Yeah.
mean, it's you get introduced to someone and it's like, not rare that it'd be like, hey, this is my friend Jack. He's a pop songwriter.
Hmm.
Um, and it's hearing about their careers and I mean, LA was an education in finding what I really wanted to do because
Mm.
I got to meet people who were doing things that I had always wanted to do, and I got to say, I don't know if that's really for me. Like
Mm.
my big dream of like playing of like touring all the time. I got to tour all the time,
Hmm.
and I got to meet people who, were 5 years, 10 years down the road that I was on.
Mm.
And I got to make a really conscious decision. And I feel very grateful and lucky that I got to do this. It's like I feel like I had to choose the life that I have right now
Hmm.
because I saw firsthand the lives that I wanted. And I got to say, maybe I don't want that,
That's
you
super
know?
insightful. And I have like the same, my version of that was Seattle, where
Yeah.
I was like putting out my first records and touring. And then exactly what you just said, seeing and hanging with the 5 year, 10 year down the road people,
Yeah.
literally 5 years older than me, or 5 years more experienced, or 5 years more famous, or any version of that.
Yeah.
And that's when I went back to grad school, because it was like,
Yeah.
and it's not for everybody. It is for some people, but like it's so smart to get as close as you can to the thing you think you want to do, and then get really close to the people that are more developed than you. And then you
Yeah.
finally get to like look inside and be like, is this what I do want to do or not? Because if I keep walking down this road, this is what I will be doing. And 9 times out of 10, like I can leave. I don't know if you relate to this, but as I've dipped into Los Angeles frequently over the last few years,
Uh-huh.
I always have a little bit of a kind of like, I kind of wish I lived down here, like sometimes. And then as
Yeah.
soon as I'm headed home and like everything kind of clears up and like there's open space, I'm like, thank God I don't live down there. You know what I mean? Like it's this funny.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And it's like I get that to like an extreme here where it's like my folks live outside the city
Yeah.
and big beautiful open green space um and I get to like I go out there we go out there on the weekend sometimes and I live like 2 blocks away from my sister and her boyfriend um well being part of the family units has been so great again it's
That's
been
cool
so
too.
long
Yeah.
but it's like we'll go out there and as soon as we get out of the city it's like oh my God like that this what are we doing what are we doing in there why would we ever do that and then you drive back into the city like kind of dreading it but then as soon as you like get in there's another switch that flips where it's like yeah this is really fun
I know.
it is
I
really
know.
fun but it's funny if you asked me 5 years ago, you know, or if I was, 'cause I moved back to New York for 6 months or so, a couple of years back in like 2021 or so,
Yeah.
and I remember doing those same sort of weekend trips of like going out to my parents' house for a day,
Mm.
and I would be I'd be out there and I remember thinking like, man, like I I'm so excited to get back into the city. And it's funny, doing the exact same thing 5 years down the road, um, and having the total opposite reaction of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and not it's been informative also in like the starkness of it, just because there were no intervening years of doing this. It was like I got a slice here and a
Right.
slice there, and I there's no spectrum. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, back then it was this, now it's that,
And now it's the
and
opposite. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I totally relate to that. I mean, it's yeah, it's there's this great Jonathan Richman song. One of another guy I
Hero.
forgot to mention him, but
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's almost too ingrained in me to remember as an influence. It's like his music feels like it's part of like
Mm,
my everyday life
mm.
in a way. He's got that great song City versus Country. I don't know if you know that one. I want to be close to downtown to be with my friends. I want to be close to them, but still be out by the trees in the wind.
Yeah.
It'll be hard to find, I'm sure, but ain't that the way of the world? I want the city, but I want the country too. And he's New England,
He
famously
is.
Boston, and now lives in Chico.
Whoa.
Um,
Whoa.
right? He
Huh.
How about this? How about this for a vocation? He lives in Chico and he builds pizza ovens.
Whoa.
He builds brick ovens for pizza. Like that's his like day to day. He'll like play guitar on the corner and then he'll like
Whoa.
you can hire him to build you a brick pizza oven. And
Whoa.
it's like that's what I'm trying to do with film scoring. It's like film scoring was my answer to the question of like how can I build a brick pizza oven
Yeah.
without having to, that's what I want.
Yeah.
It's like John Cage was a plumber for a really long time.
All these
Even after
people,
his
man. Phil
yeah,
Glass was a taxi cab driver. Yeah,
yeah,
I think the theme I like it, and I feel like I'm resonating with you on it is this feeling of just like the craft of all this stuff is like it's sculptor, it's plumber, it's long-term craftsperson who's just gonna
yeah,
spin it out, and the more you like relax into yourself along the way, the better these songs will become, the better these things will become. Um, as it's looked at as more of like, yeah, oven builder, whatever it would be, like craftsperson who shows
yeah.
up, who just shows up, you know.
That's all I want. And it's funny, you know, I never feel like I'm giving up on my dreams,
Mm, mm,
I feel I get the sense of like my dreams like, you know, revealing their true form.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
It's like when I was a kid, when I was in college, dreaming about touring playing big shows and like um doing that thing. I think that's revealed itself to just being like the real dream there the whole time was like being a part of a community that values what I do and like having and my friends liking my music. Like that's really it. Like there's no greater feeling in the whole world and nothing in the world that I would trade for like my friends and family genuinely listening to my music. That's like what it's all for. And I feel like I lost that for a little bit. Um and I'm really happy that I'm back there, to just worrying about my friends. And I feel like my stuff is better. And I also think that my friends like it more. Like I never hear my friends talk about like the records I made when I wasn't writing for them, which, seems obvious, but it's like it's
yeah.
so much better. Um
That's very
uh,
telling.
yeah, it's like I wrote the two records I wrote when I was trying to like, when I feel like I was trying to impress people or like, write for my fans. Because I used to have a huge number of like Spotify monthly listeners,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was, of course, the metric by which worth was determined in my world
Which the
briefly.
globe turned on. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, like the Late to the Party and Slacker Poetry were those two records, and I still stand by them. And I think that they're super fun and they were
Yeah.
worthwhile. But it's like those are the records that I listen to the least.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and ultimately, because I listen to my own stuff uh as I think all musicians should. If you're not listening to your own music, it's, you know, uh, people are sometimes surprised that I listen to my own music. But it's like, of course, I made it.
You gotta like it too, right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in that camp. Like if you're one of those people who's like, I can't listen to it, it's like,
Like, what are you doing?
then do you not like it?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like yeah. That's definitely something with sculpture
Mm.
that that's interesting in painting. It's like when you are a sculptor, you make a sculpture and then you have to have it. It's like
Yeah. I didn't think about
you
that.
you have to just have it. And I don't get
Huh.
to make sculptures that much anymore because I have nowhere to put them.
Mm.
Um, which is a very funny thought with regards to music, where there's like an infinite space for it, on a certain level. But it's like, my own songs that I don't like as much, I forget how to play them. Like
Mm.
there is a limited amount of space in there for me to keep my music.
Mm.
Um, it's funny the songs that I remember how to play and the songs that I don't remember how to play. It's like the sculptures that I like threw away because there's no room for them
Mm.
versus the sculptures that like I've hung on to, like the art that I've made that I've hung on to. And I don't know, there's something about like physical mediums that force, well, something very obvious about physical mediums that
Yeah.
force you to make those decisions. Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty. I think that's why some people get pretty into recording on tape, right?
Yeah, 100%.
A version of that where it's just like, hey, this is going to go down right now, and it better be good enough to keep because we only have, and it's only going to be this long because that's how long the tape is, and blah blah blah. There's this aspect to it all that forces a certain kind of commitment that physical art just does. Music doesn't force the commitment if you don't, unless you set up a game to which you force it, basically, right? Like in a way.
Yeah.
And so again, back to like healthy pressure or something like this, I guess. But I like that thought of listening to your own stuff too. I found that I'm jazzed by hearing some of my own stuff because most of it was made quick enough to where I'm like almost surprised. You know what I mean? It's kind of this feeling of like, man, that went down on April 2nd to 4th. Like, whoa,
That's so fun.
how
Yeah.
fun, how cool. Like, you know, no false humility there. It's just like it was a pleasure. The more I talked to a friend about this recently, and I think that the more I've sat with it, the more the metaphor sticks, which is that like music making in a certain way, especially with other people, but you could like set up the conditions in your place, is very similar to a some kind of like some kind of sports thing, meaning
Yeah.
especially it works especially well with surfing or
Oh,
skiing down a mountain with
yes.
with a crew of people, because all
Absolutely.
those metaphors hold so well in terms of their like it's only going to happen once. Here's your cat. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like it's only going to happen once. It's not going to be the same twice. We're only here for the weekend. Let's
Yeah.
document it. Like it's going to be unique and special. Like it's very similar to songwriting and very similar to recording if you want to take that approach. Um,
Definitely. And surfing especially is
yeah,
so relevant where it's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think surfing is always a good analogy for the creative process,
Sure.
where it's like really like the more I work, the more I'm convinced that like inspiration is like truly like something out of our control. All right,
Mm.
Nova.
Yeah.
Like the best thing you can do is sort of put yourself out there
Yeah.
in
Yeah. Yeah.
in the right conditions, you know? But like
Yeah. You
so
show up.
often,
Yeah.
I'll look at the studio like surf report, for lack of a better word, and I'm like, oh wow, the waves are going to be great today. I get to the studio and I sit there and like no sets come in, and it's like, yeah, that's how it happens sometimes. And like other times, you're like, I might as well just show up, and you get out there and like all of a sudden like this
Killer. Yeah. Yeah.
perfect set comes in, and it's like, where the heck did that come from? That you know, of course, like there's a higher chance of something good happening
If you
if
show
the
up.
forecast is looking good. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just gotta show up. You just gotta, and I've learned, I've had to learn to not get discouraged when the wave doesn't come.
Mm. It's a
That's
very mature
yeah,
thing. I think that's like a mature that is part of maturing as an artist. I think the danger we hold as I continue on my journey and think about my relationship to stuff, everything was volatile when I was younger. So I could
yeah.
like I would stay up really late and like just grind it. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
and
yeah,
then I would break
absolutely.
you break up with somebody and like it's everything's volatile, like everything's
Yeah,
exploding and you work for 8 hours and you do this and you go crazy. And so the volatility of being younger is incredible, but the consistency of being younger is less present. And then as you get older, it could shift where you are able to be disciplined and consistent, but the volatility is not sustainable, nor is it there. Like maybe you're
yeah.
happily
It's not,
together with a person in a domestic situation and there's no volatility to speak of that is intense enough to explode your life.
yeah,
Therefore, you need to show up daily and be okay with a flat surfing day,
yeah,
knowing that tomorrow you'll show up again and then you can grab what you grab and incorporate the practice. Again, the practice of the craft and the practice is like the thing, is like the mantra these days, right? Like
yeah.
showing up on a regular basis and doing a thing is really really cool. Anything else? We should jump off here in a little bit, but any anything else you're compelled to talk about, or any other things that are on your mind lately?
Um, Man, I feel like we covered a lot more ground of stuff that I knew was on my mind lately.
me,
Um,
me too, actually. What has been on my mind?
yeah, I'm like, wow, I've been thinking about a lot of stuff recently, huh?
Yeah, apparently my wheels are turning.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, my Erin, my wife she's working on her first novel. She just finished the her third draft of it,
Oh wow.
and it's been talking about all this stuff. It's been fascinating watching her sort of start the creative process. Um, and um, she's like totally caught like a huge wave and it's just like surfing it in. And it's like she's
Wow.
on like that thrill ride of like inspiration. And that's been really
Wow.
fun to watch. That's also something I've been thinking about. It's like it's just been thrilling to watch her like like trucking. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I've always been the one in a relationship, like staying up late, being like, I gotta finish this song. But now it's like, hey, Aaron, time to go to bed. And she's like, I just gotta get this chapter out. It's
Yeah.
so fun. It's been really
Yeah.
awesome to be on the other side. Um, but that's something that's definitely, I think, helped our relationship that I'd never expected. It's like our mutual understanding has really deepened
Oh wow.
as we've been like put into each other's position. Because like, when we met, she was working on science things mostly,
Mm.
with like sort of an eye towards more creative projects, and I was, just coming out of my like touring all the time world of like gotta
Hmm.
get in the studio and make something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that's a
that's been
cool like
interesting.
role reversal, and then you also get to see the like see what it looks like for somebody else to catch a wave
Yeah.
at a time, and be. I mean, part of it is having peace with where you're at, because I think if I get worried, I can be like, uh oh, you know what I mean? Like, are my like
Yeah.
like uh oh, am I not creative anymore or whatever? And I think that's also a funny. That's a funny. What's the word? That's a feeling you got to like let just kind of like float through and be like, oh, I'm
Yeah, no,
probably fine. I'm probably
I
fine.
get that same thing. Yeah.
You know, like
Uh,
it's probably all fine. Um,
Yeah, no, I get those too. If
mm,
I go like a week
mm.
without writing a song, it's like, yeah, maybe I don't have any more.
Maybe I'm retired. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
what's
man.
your dog's name?
This is Tank. Tank is I'll show him to you for real. He was just basking in the sun, so he's hot. He's
Hey, Tank.
he's a chug, so he's like a pug chihuahua.
Wow, he's
I mean,
amazing.
he's actually like
He's
really,
so cute.
I know. And he's just he's like my best little buddy. It's so funny. And he's not shy about being on camera, obviously. Yeah, man. Well, it's a huge pleasure to get to know you better and chat with you. We
Dude,
haven't like really
likewise.
hung out much at all, and so this is a good excuse to get to know each other better. And I'm really struck by, I don't know, I feel like I just have a lot to learn all the time in general. And as I kind of went deeper into your work this week and got a better sense for what you're into, and then on top of that, you talking about us talking about some of our shared favorite songwriters who are active and
Yeah, a
from the
lot of
past.
overlap.
There's a lot of overlap. It's really trippy to me because
Yeah.
um yeah, the way things go, it's funny. Like there's a lot of overlap. So that's inspiring to me. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna this project is also really inspiring to me. I might have to do my own version. It's
Yeah.
such a great excuse to like because
Yeah.
when we started releasing your stuff, I went back and listened to all of your records.
Oh, that's cool.
Um yeah, oh, they're amazing. Um and that's been a really fun part of running the label has been like doing deep dives on our
Mm.
friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um and this is another great excuse to do that. That's
Yeah.
really really cool. Yeah, no, I mean like I have specific questions for you on different songs.
Mm.
Like, if this was inspired by that or
Mm.
I remember there's this synth part on one of the songs from the record with the blue cover.
Oh yeah.
What's
Watch TV, I
what's
think
that
that's
one?
called maybe.
Um, Let me see. Which one is it? California.
Oh
California
yeah.
Scenario.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a
There's
strange record.
there's a synth line on one of the tunes that reminded me a lot of the track Rumen and Charisse, and I was wondering, I'll find it for you sometime. But I was like, because I was listening to Ruben and Charisse, and then I heard
What's Ruben and
your
Charisse?
um, it's uh, it's from a Jerry Garcia band record
Oh
called
wow.
Cats Down Under the Stars.
Oh yeah, I'm
Um,
aware of that record, but is there a synth that's kind of that world?
Yeah.
That's
The song Ruben and Charisse is an amazing song. It's
oh,
one of those like Hunter Garcia tunes that it's like how do you even write that song? How do you do like Robert Hunter
yeah,
I mean, Jerry Garcia is a wonderful composer, writes
yeah.
wonderful melodies and consistently delightful chord progressions. But for me, the real mystery will always be Robert Hunter. It's like, how do you write those lyrics? Like, how do you, especially without like music, how do you
Yeah.
sit down and write like,
Hmm.
even songs that sound simple? Of course, there are songs like Terrapin Station where it's like, I think anyone would ask, how do you do that? But especially as a songwriter,
Hmm.
how do you sit down and write like brown-eyed women. I don't know. How do you sit down and write the words like "Gone are the days when the ox fall down, pick up the yoke and plow the fields around"? Like,
Mm.
how that's like a those are lyrics that someone wrote in like the early 1700s or
Yeah,
like at the end.
it sounds like the Odyssey or some biblical thing or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's how do
Mythical.
you do that? It's
Yeah.
a you know I don't know. It's like him, authors like Ursula K. Le Guin. I always wonder.
Oh yeah.
It's like how do you? She has this amazing trilogy
Yeah.
of books called the Earthsea
Mm.
trilogy. It's like a young adult like fantasy,
Mm.
uh but it like it weirdly reads like the Bible sometimes, where I remember reading it in college and coming across these like passages where it's like how do you sit down and like write that? It was amazing.
She has a great book about writing. Have you ever checked that book out?
No, what's it called? I gotta get
Let
it.
me let me look. Uh, I had it on my bookshelf at one point. Well, let's see. There's
The
conversations on
rules of
writing.
writing.
The rules. It's probably the rules. Or no, no, no. Steering the craft.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Wow. I
Yeah,
gotta
I would
get
grab it
this.
because it's like kind of
We're
based on workshops she gave. Um,
cool.
Super sort of straightforward, and it makes you realize people like this, people that seem like so, mystical in a certain way or something like this, are just craftspeople. This
Yeah.
is how it is, right? It's like, and you bring up the Jerry Garcia band, which, by the way, my dad took me to see the Jerry Garcia band in like
Oh, cool.
1993 or four or something like this in San Diego. Um,
That's super cool.
but yeah, I think the like trick. There's also, before I forget, I need to now remember this. I swear it's called Little Big. Do you know a novel called Little Big? Am I making this up? Maybe it's not called Little Big. Let me see.
Who's it by?
John Crowley.
That
If
name
you're
is
into
familiar.
if you're into fantasy, look this book up. I haven't read it, so I feel like there's a lot of stuff I know about that I haven't actually.
Oh yeah, it is called Little Big.
It is. This is, and he's an East. I think he's an East Coast.
Oh, I am a
Do you know about this?
huge fan of, so I did a ton of research in college um on on fairy.
Whoa,
Um
dude,
I'm a
this might blow your mind because even
I'll
okay, Ursula K. Le
I'll show
Guin.
you my bookshelf is filled with like this stuff. Like
Oh, all right.
oh, it's me this is one thing that Aaron and I totally geek out on, is like this exact type of like mysticism. And then, of course, it's like how it's been translated into like the fantasy, translated into fantasy in like a modern literature context. But
Hmm.
when I was in college, I did a ton of research and like academic writing on um like the concept of magic, and and how like our relationship with like the other world of like the quote unquote other world, or however you want to call it, the thin veil of
Hmm.
like that, how that manifests itself in our everyday experiences and our view of the world around us, and then of course how it gets transmuted into very practical things like advertising.
Oh, right.
um
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like I have this amazing book that might be worth checking out. This was the guy I studied with in college, John Stilgo.
Okay.
um
Old Fields.
uh Photography, Glamour, and Fantasy Landscape. And this is a book. It's a really difficult book on it, to be honest, but it's
Yeah.
like a work of true vision and genius. It's about kind of how the connections between fantasy and fairy and early photography, And then
Wow.
it's, he's sort of one of those draw your own conclusions writers.
Mm.
Um, and people have taken his work and done some radically different things, but
Oh
you
man, this
know,
looks like a great read though.
by
Uh,
God, it's you know,
wow.
his stuff is always good. Like What is Landscape is another classic. Outside Lies Magic.
I think
Um
what is landscape sounds like a familiar thing. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's like yeah, it's but anyway, I got to get that book.
Yeah, Scope,
That sounds amazing.
the little big book, I was just realizing, and again, I I need to read it, but it's like Ursula K. Le Guin wrote that it's a book that all by itself calls for a redefinition of fantasy. And
Wow.
some people have called it, you know, uh, the closest analog would be the Alice stories by Lewis Carroll. Like
Yeah.
I think it's like a heavy duty, crazy thing,
I I
that's sort of under the radar for whatever reason. I think it's also, it's like 500 pages and it's not like Lord of the Rings or something. You know what I mean? It's not a kids
yeah.
movie. I think it's like a heavy thing, but
Yeah,
fun.
I don't know, there are two books then that I would recommend to you.
Yeah.
One is this novel called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell,
Okay.
which is the greatest, maybe the single best book I've ever read. Maybe I don't know, it rocks. I mean it's so funny and
Hmm.
it's so like incredible. It's amazing. And it's a work of like historical fiction, which is basically like what if it's a tale of two dueling magicians in the Napoleonic Wars. And it's like a pastiche of Jane Austen era like comedies of manner. So it's comedy of manner about like dueling magicians. It's heavily footnoted because it's written as if it was a book from that era.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay.
it's written, it's a history. It's a it itself is a work of history. It's a book called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell
Yeah.
by John Honeyfoot, by um what's her name, who wrote the
I see what you're saying. Right. So
yeah,
oh, wow. Huh.
it's amazing. It rocks so hard.
I'm
And
going to keep this open
the
on my
uh,
desktop.
the other one is a book called Titus Grown by Mervyn Peake. Um and it's wild. It's so cool because it it's a work of fantasy that's unlike any other, or it's not even a work of fantasy. It's just like a nonfiction in the truest sense of the word in a way I've never experienced, where it has elements of like it doesn't exist in our world. Like it's not even like an alien world.
Mm.
It's like magical realism would be the closest analog, but there's like no recognizable time frame
Wow.
or like character relationships. Like it's totally like removed from reality, and it's so beautiful. It's so weird and compelling.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's a that's one that it's just like it's a baffling book,
You're
you
giving me
know.
good summer read recommendations here.
Yeah, they're interesting like to compare because um Strange and Norrell is like firmly set in our world.
Mm.
Um uh Firmly set in our world, but then like, it's like what if, It's like
Got it. Yeah.
it spins out of control of our world. But then then Titus Grown is like just, it's not even there's no like characters have
So
first
yeah.
names and last names, and some are, more in power than others, but there's like Yeah. It's like for all I know, in Titus Grown, like the Earth is a disc. Like I don't know. There's no.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
Yeah.
spinning
Yeah.
its own web, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But anyway, I got to check out Little Big. That's an amazing recommendation.
Yeah, and again, I'm like I feel like I'm becoming more and more well known for recommending stuff I haven't even checked out. Like I know about it, but I'll tell people about movies I've just like read about. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of
Oh,
thing.
man,
I'm like,
it's a
I
tale
heard
as
this
old as
movie is
time.
amazing. I know about all these things about it, and they're like, well, how was it? I'm like, I actually haven't seen it, but who needs to
That's really
see it when you
funny.
can read about it?
Yeah.
Nice, Austin. Well, I'm glad we could catch up,
Yeah,
and
you too, Josh.
yeah, this was super fun.
Yeah. I hope to talk to you again soon. And I'll hopefully I'll see you soon. I don't know when, but hopefully.
Yeah.